was a dramatic and amazing scene in the Pacific Ocean. A squadron of Chinese and Russian warships unexpectedly shadowed HMS Queen Elizabeth, the pride of the Royal Navy, in disputed waters. What happened next was unexpected and may have had major implications for international affairs. Today, we'll go into that remarkable encounter and explore its consequences. HMS Queen Elizabeth. The UK's flagship aircraft carrier had been sent to the Indo-Pacific as part of a continuing operation to support freedom of navigation and underscore the country's steadfast commitment to its worldwide allies. This deployment was critical. With escalating tensions in vital places such as the South China Sea, the deployment was more than just a show of power. It also sent a strong message of support to Britain's important allies, notably the United States, Japan, and Australia. The huge aircraft carrier was at the heart of a formidable carrier strike group, complete with cutting-edge F-35B, Lightning II fighter jets, and a plethora of naval assets such as destroyers, frigates, and supply vessels. These naval troops were conducting joint military exercises, highlighting the UK's commitment to playing a critical role in sustaining peace and security in one of the world's most strategically crucial areas. The South China Sea has long been a source of tension in international relations, acting as a major commercial route through which trillions of dollars in products flow each year. It is also a contentious area with numerous territorial disputes, owing mostly to China's aggressive and sweeping claims over large areas of the ocean. HMS Queen Elizabeth and her allies prioritize the safety of these seas. However, this expedition has sparked enormous interest and friction among rival factions. China's reaction to the deployment of HMS Queen Elizabeth and other Western naval assets in the Indo-Pacific was immediate and decisive. China has escalated its naval operations in recent months, including large-scale military exercises in the South China Sea. These maneuvers were intended to demonstrate China's expanding naval capabilities and strengthen its claims to the disputed waterways. The Chinese People's Liberation Army Navy, or PLAN, sent warships, submarines, and even modern anti-ship missiles in an effort to discourage foreign forces from operating in the region. The exercise culminated lately with China conducting live fire training near international waters, greatly raising tensions in the area. These drills included simulated missile strikes and complicated maneuvers that were clearly designed to demonstrate superiority and terrify adversary forces operating nearby. Despite its geographical distance, Russia has made a significant impact in the Indo-Pacific. In a show of military collaboration, Chinese and Russian naval forces conducted coordinated training in the region, aggravating an already precarious situation. These maneuvers, suitably titled Maritime Cooperation, covered fleet coordination, anti-submarine warfare, and missile defense. These coordinated exercises highlighted China and Russia's growing military collaboration, with both countries appearing prepared to challenge Western naval supremacy in the Indo-Pacific. Regarding Russia-China military alliance expansion, what do you think? Is it possible that their alliance could be more dangerous than we think? Post a comment below to share your ideas. It wasn't long until the inevitable occurred. Tensions rose during one of the HMS Queen Elizabeth's patrols near the disputed waters of the South China Sea. Multiple Chinese warships, including destroyers and frigates, unexpectedly cast a shadow over the enormous aircraft carrier, which was carrying hundreds of crew members. According to reports, the Chinese warships approached the British task group with caution and assertiveness. This conduct was widely interpreted as a direct challenge, testing the resolve of the United Kingdom and its allies. Although no guns were fired, the atmosphere remained exceedingly tense, with both sides keenly observing each other's every move. The UK Ministry of Defence attempted to downplay the event, claiming that HMS Queen Elizabeth was acting in conformity with international law. However, behind closed doors, military leaders expressed increased anxiety about the rising frequency of these encounters. The episode has striking similarities with earlier conflicts. Chinese warships and fighter jets challenged Western resolve and pushed the boundaries, bringing them closer to a potential clash. The presence of various naval forces in the Indo-Pacific is exacerbating the potential for inadvertent escalation, rapidly turning the region into a volatile situation. Chinese, Russian, British, and American warships operate in close proximity. This creates a perilous scenario where even the slightest misunderstanding could lead to catastrophic consequences. A single false move, confusing signal, or too aggressive action could spark a dangerous encounter. Military leaders from all sides have warned about the inherent dangers of such standoffs. Officials have regularly expressed worries. The possibility of unintentional escalation underscores the ease with which a minor incident can spiral out of control in these tense and heavily fortified waters. As HMS Queen Elizabeth and other naval forces continue to patrol these hotly contested areas, the threat of violence looms. The next encounter could be just one step away from a massive worldwide disaster. Are you concerned that these lingering tensions might turn into a major crisis? Write your opinion in the comments column. Now let us construct a picture of what happened on that tragic day. Imagine this, if you will. HMS Queen Elizabeth is undertaking routine operations in the Indo-Pacific, including crossing international seas as part of a larger mission to protect freedom of navigation. The weather is calm and the sun glistens off the sea surface. Additionally, a force of destroyers, frigates, and supply ships helps the enormous carrier glide easily. The radar systems on board are constantly attentive, scanning the surrounding seas for any activity. But today, something new comes on the radar screens. Multiple contacts start to appear. First a few, then many more. They are not friendly vessels. Radar operators quickly identify the approaching ships as Chinese warships, then Russian boats. They're converging from all directions, drawing uncomfortably close to the British task force, with some approaching from the front and others trailing behind. It's evident that this goes beyond regular patrols. It's a planned display of might. Within minutes, HMS Queen Elizabeth was encircled. Chinese destroyers, frigates, and even a couple smaller corvettes have closed in on the British carrier fleet. To add to the complexity, Russian boats, including a missile cruiser, have joined the formation and are shadowing the British ships from HMS Queen Elizabeth's bridge. The commanders can see the silhouettes of Chinese and Russian vessels on the horizon, which appear to be delivering a clear message. This is clearly not an accident. The Chinese and Russian ships are deliberately positioned to test the Royal Navy's commitment. The surrounding vessels maintain a forceful posture while avoiding outright conflict. They haven't fired any weapons, but their tight maneuvers and overwhelming numbers make it clear that their goal is to terrify. Communication lines between HMS Queen Elizabeth and the Chinese-Russian warships have been opened, but the situation remains tight. Standard Navy regulations for avoiding collisions and maintaining safe distances are communicated, but the responses are brief and formal. British commanders give warnings to opposing ships, telling them that they are in international seas and must follow safety rules. The Chinese and Russian fleet's reactions have been either modest or non-committal, escalating the tension. The atmosphere on HMS Queen Elizabeth is tangible. You can feel it. The ship's crew, men and women who have spent years training for situations like this, are on high alert. Every seaman recognizes the gravity of the situation. There was a single mistake, one moment of poor decision-making, could result in an international incident. The British commanders, seasoned veterans with expertise in tight situations, stay calm yet watchful, evaluating all possible responses if the situation worsens. In response to the growing encirclement, the British carrier group initiates preventive measures. HMS Queen Elizabeth fires several F-35B Lightning II jets from its flight deck. Powerful engines roar as modern fighter planes take to the skies, circling above the carrier in a show of might. The sight of these cutting-edge jets, armed with powerful armament, serves as a warning to the oncoming ship HMS Queen Elizabeth and her strike. The group is prepared for any scenario. Below deck, the crew is busy preparing for any conceivable emergencies. Weapons systems are on standby, and radar systems are following the movements of surrounding warships. The British commanders understand that they must tread a tight line. Any sign of weakness could potentially embolden the Chinese and Russian ships, while an overreaction could easily be countered. Turn the situation into a violent battle. There is tension aboard the carrier. You can feel it in every pore. Sailors and officers alike are waiting, their eyes fixed on their separate responsibilities, but their brains are aware that the next step might decide the course of the day and possibly the next several years of military diplomacy in the area. While the F-35 circles overhead, the remaining ships in the British carrier strike group maintain a close formation. The destroyers and frigates assume defensive positions, prepared to intercept any potential threats from surface vessels or aircraft. Meanwhile, nearby Allied ships from the United States and Japan, who are participating in joint military drills, have been placed on alert, despite the fact that they are not directly involved. They begin to move closer to HMS Queen Elizabeth's position. If the situation worsens, they are prepared to offer reinforcements, expanding this from a limited standoff to a larger conflict involving numerous nations. Their presence serves as a stark reminder to the Chinese and Russian forces that this is more than just a British operation. It is a collaborative effort involving many coalition forces. As tensions increase, both sides send drones into the sky. Unmanned reconnaissance planes fly through the air, gathering real-time data and transmitting it to their respective fleets. These drones give critical situational awareness to British commanders aboard HMS Queen Elizabeth, allowing them to track the exact locations and activities of Chinese and Russian vessels. However, the growing presence of drones poses additional risks. With so many airplanes and drones in close vicinity, the possibility of an unintentional accident or miscommunication increases dramatically. Any such oversight could start a chain reaction that no one wants. British commanders understand the importance of maintaining composure. Cool heads must prevail. Despite increased provocation conditions, they must be fully prepared to defend their ship if required. Managing caution and preparation is difficult, but the stakes are high. Everyone aboard HMS Queen Elizabeth keeps a watch on the Chinese and Russian ships as the standoff continues. The following few minutes might go either way. Either the opposing ships agree to retreat, or the tight equilibrium deteriorates into a crisis. In this scenario, diplomatic channels between the United Kingdom, NATO, China, and Russia are established practically immediately after the stalemate begins. Recognizing the enormous stakes and the possibility of catastrophic error, back-channel conversations begin. British authorities collaborate extensively with their NATO counterparts and the United States. We are coordinating messages to help de-escalate the situation. At the same time, Chinese and Russian diplomats speak with their respective naval commanders, emphasizing prudence and restraint. Over the next few hours, the fleet's tense radio conversations give way to more measured discourse. The British carrier strike group maintains a defensive stance while pulling back slightly to avoid further provocation. The Chinese and Russian boats gradually begin to break formation. In the end, there are no bullets fired and no near encounters, simply a high-stakes test of wills that is eventually handled by calm diplomacy. Although a direct confrontation is avoided, the episode has a long-term impact on future operations. Trust between the concerned states has degraded further, and NATO leaders propose expanding the frequency and scale of collaborative military exercises in the Indo-Pacific to assure readiness for future clashes. Meanwhile, China and Russia see the incident as an opportunity to expand their influence, justifying their activities as required to protect regional interests. The occurrence sparks more diplomatic conversations, but it also results in enhanced military presence and monitoring in the region. Things could have turned out differently if the situation had been more volatile. Consider the following scenario. During the standoff, a Chinese vessel approaches one of the British destroyers guarding HMS Queen Elizabeth. A collision is narrowly avoided, yet the proximity is sufficient to cause bewilderment and raise alarms. In the high-stress scenario, emotions rise, prompting the British side to fire warning shots to push the oncoming vessel back. The warning shots elicit an equally forceful response from the Chinese vessels, which quickly deploy nearby planes. HMS Queen Elizabeth reacts by sending more fighter jets, resulting in a brief but fierce aerial standoff. Although no missiles are fired, the threat is palpable. Fighter jets from both sides compete in the skies, waiting for the other to make the first mistake. This incident, which lasted barely a few minutes, had immediate and serious diplomatic consequences. Please share your thoughts on what may have transpired in this high-pressure circumstance before we delve into the worst-case scenario. Was a conflict inevitable, or might diplomacy have prevented a possible crisis? Post a comment below to share your opinions. In the worst-case scenario, the standoff turns into a full-scale armed battle. The encirclement of HMS Queen Elizabeth tightens as both the Chinese and Russian fleets grow more hostile. An unexpected incident, such as an unintended collision or a misfired shot, prompts a rapid and decisive military response. Within moments, naval soldiers on both sides are exchanging fire, escalating what began as a standoff. Quickly escalates into an open battle. The skies over the South China Sea have become a chaotic battleground, with fighter jets from HMS Queen Elizabeth strike group colliding with Chinese and Russian aircraft. The naval troops engage in missile strikes, air defense systems are activated, and both sides suffer fatalities. The fight quickly attracts adjacent NATO forces, as well as the United States and Japan, which send reinforcements to assist. The British carrier group, in turn, asks its regional allies in Russia to help in the war. The consequences of such a war are serious. It might easily evolve into a larger conflict involving a number of countries, including Australia, India, and other Southeast Asian countries. NATO's collective defense procedures, which include members from Europe and North America, are likely to be activated. The UK would get full military backing, but the fight would escalate uncontrollably. This full-scale conflict scenario has the potential to become one of the most serious international crises of the 21st century. HMS Queen Elizabeth's cutting-edge technology gives NATO a significant advantage in this fight. The carrier's F-35B Lightning jets are some of the most advanced in the world. The ship has stealth capabilities, network targeting systems, and precision weapons that allow it to strike from a distance without being detected. It also has advanced missile defense systems like Sea Scepter and Phalanx designed to intercept incoming missiles and aircraft, which would be critical in a high-intensity conflict where China and Russia could launch launch coordinated missile attacks. The Royal Navy's employment of drones and satellite-based intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance ISR equipment would give them real-time information on enemy movements. This technical advantage would enable HMS Queen Elizabeth to strike first in many instances, potentially neutralizing major threats before they escalated. This would have a devastating impact on the global economy, triggering as energy supplies, goods, and resources struggle to pass through contested waterways. A global crisis is triggered. The speed with which the crisis rises determines whether this confrontation will be a brief, furious exchange or a protracted war. If the fight lasts only a few weeks or months, NATO's superior technology and air dominance may force China and Russia to retire, particularly if US and Japanese forces work together. A decisive early strike by HMS Queen Elizabeth's F-35s might destroy significant threats, allowing for a swift conclusion. However, if the conflict carried on, China's massive navy and sheer manpower could overwhelm NATO's weaker forces. In the event of a prolonged confrontation, NATO would require major reinforcements from the United States and European states, effectively turning the Indo-Pacific into a multi-year combat zone. The longer the fight lasts, the more likely it is that global alliances will alter, economies will suffer, and civilian populations will be devastated. While the likelihood of a full-scale war remains low, the potential for escalation exists. Should we begin to feel fearful about this situation? On the other hand, has the recent incident already passed? Post your thoughts here and tell us what you think. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more videos on this channel. Click on the next video and see you next time.